To establish a company and to do it well, the first thing you need to do is to make a good product.
What's up? I'm going to the movies here shortly, but I just thought I'd do a quick little review for Jumanji Welcome to the Jungle. I watched it last night in order to kind of prep to potentially go see Next Level pretty soon, since it just came out the other day. Um, I thought it was, well, first off, I guess to begin, I haven't watched the original um, in at least a decade, so I don't really remember too much about it, but I do remember is that I honestly didn't like it as much as most other Robin Williams movies. For some reason, it just felt very dry for me, and even like for the 90s, back when I saw it in the 90s, it somehow seemed dated. Something about the way it was just shot and portrayed, the characters all just seemed very muted, if I remember correctly, and I just think that other than, I mean, Robin Williams obviously probably was very, exciting and expressive, but I just think that from what I remember, it was like a little dull to me, which sounds really mean and harsh, but I just mean that it didn't keep me very invested the same way some of his other movies do. Um, I think if I remember correctly, the plot of the first one was that it was like a board game instead of the video games that's been in the newer ones. And it was like he was trapped in the board game, and some kid started playing it, and the board game came to life, meaning like it stuff started crossing over into the real world, which seems like it would be more exciting, but I think I prefer it the way the new ones are. Um, so I guess I'll start heading into, the review of Welcome to the Jungle. That way we can get to why I feel very differently about the new ones. Um, for some reason, I guess because it's an established IP from the 90s that had a good sequel, spiritual sequel, whatever, in Zathura in the mid 2000s, I, for some reason, felt like I wasn't going to like this new movie. I was like skeptical and just like, well, they're just cashing in on an old franchise, basically. Um, But strangely, I actually liked it a lot more than the original, from what I remember. Like I said, I remember thinking that the original was kind of dull, even when I was a kid in the 90s, seeing it in 95 or whenever it was, 96, or probably when it came out or whatever, to VHS instead of being in theaters or whatever, because I never saw it in theaters, obviously. Um, I remember just thinking the first one was kind of dull. And the way the new one works is that you've got these teenagers in high school, early high school, and now, like 2017, um, go, instead of like playing a board game and the game coming out, it's kind of the opposite. They're playing a video game and they get Tron sucked into the game or whatever, and they pick characters and then they go into the game as these characters. Hence, The Rock, Jack Black, Kevin Hart, and Karen Gillan, um, and later on Nick Jonas being like the main characters essentially throughout the movie. But the cool thing that they do is the characters, it's almost like you're watching actors playing characters, because they're these characters game wise, and they sometimes act like themselves for these characters, but overall they're portraying these teenagers in their bodies, which is kind of funny to watch. Just because you'll have stuff like the popular girl being Jack Black and stuff like that, and this nerdy guy being The Rock, and it just works really well. Um, so it's really funny because the jokes that they do really play up those characters in the characters, and I think that their reactions to scenarios work very well because of who they are deep down. Um, and it's just, I don't know, it's really interesting, it's unique. You don't really see that in many movies, characters being other characters being characters or whatever, or actors being characters being well, you know what I mean. um, but I guess what I will say is that it surprised me with how much the action of it really maintained my attention. There's something to be said about remakes being bad or like reboots being bad, but this one I feel like it breathed a lot of life into the IP that I honestly didn't think was there to begin with. It felt very stale in the original, and this feels very lively and fast paced and just interesting, even though it's at moments like there's downtime because it's like levels or whatever because it's a video game, but it's like it just flows very well. I think that it was a smart move to get the characters into Jumanji rather than Jumanji coming to the characters because, like I said, they're just as much as it seems like there would be excitement coming from the game coming to you or the jungle coming to you, it just makes it more interesting to look at visually, having the characters be in the jungle rather than the other way around. Because I think, jungle aspects coming out in suburbia or whatever will only look so great for so long, whereas this movie looks fantastic almost the whole way through because most of it's spent in this weird, like, pseudo Aztecish looking jungle, or Mayan, whatever, you know what I mean? Some sort of Hispanic, South American country, ancient civilization-y kind of jungle. And it's really neat the way they play up the video game aspects of it with the characters having their strengths and weaknesses, and the way that they show the weaknesses is actually really funny a lot of the time. And I don't know, everything just hit right, and therefore it kind of kept my attention longer. I think that there were moments where certain things probably could have been done better. I mean, after all, it has like a 6.9 on IMDb, but I don't really recall anything sticking out as like glaringly, blatantly bad to me. I don't really remember any moment where I was just like, man, they could have done that better. I found myself laughing and smiling like the whole way through. It was just a very fun, entertaining movie to watch. And I was very surprised. I think that I'm really looking forward to the sequel now, where it's going to be like Danny Glover as, it seems like he's going to be Kevin Hart, and Danny DeVito is going to be The Rock, and the guy who played Kevin Hart's character, or whatever, player character, on the first one is going to be Jack Black, and I don't really know which of the girls from the first one is going to be the Karen Gillan character in the second one. I wasn't really paying that much attention to that for some reason in the trailer for the new one, but there's also like a guest actor, I guess, later on in the movie of the first one, and it's kind of a funny choice. Maybe that would be like it's not really a negative, but it's a weird it's a weird thing I noticed, is that their actor they picked to portray a certain character in the end of the first one, it's just kind of a weird pick. But it kind of makes it funny and more endearing in a way, because it's like you don't expect it, but it, I guess, makes sense. Everybody has their own tastes and stuff. And it's not always what you'd expect. Like I've often said to friends who always get weird about me liking so much hip-hop or stuff like that, or metal, or any genre of music, or anything really. Wow, my hat looks really weird at this angle. It's kind of bugging me. Sorry, distraction. But I think it was a really fun movie. I think almost anybody will enjoy it as long as you're, able to kind of follow along with the characters being characters or whatever. Obviously it's cheesy, but that's the whole point, I feel like, is that it's a video game, so it's obviously going to play up some of the goofy tropes and things like that happen in video games. But that gives it a kind of cool element. You don't really see a whole lot of video game movies that aren't really based around an actual game anymore, and usually when they are, they're not very good, so it's kind of refreshing to see one be about video games. It's not about a video game, if that makes sense. But yeah, I just rented the movie for like $4 on Amazon, and I'd say it was well worth it. Very entertaining, and I'm looking forward to seeing the second one soon. Maybe later this week or sometime next week or something. But what was I going to say? There was something I wanted to say about the video game thing. crap. Well, I lost my train of thought. I guess it made me think about this movie that they keep teasing up on teaser on Twitter for Ryan Reynolds called, I don't remember what it's called, but it's like about him being a background character in a video game. And it sounds really good. I think that, I know this doesn't have to do with Jumanji anymore, but it's similar theme, I guess. It's called Free Guy, and it's about him being a background character in an MMO, basically, like an NPC, I guess, and he like figures it out. So I really want to see that. This movie kind of made me think about that some more, just because the way the characters are in the game, and also the fact that there are like NPCs in the game, just kind of made me, or in the movie, just kind of made me laugh and think about the possibilities for this Free Guy movie. So I'm looking forward to seeing that and Jumanji Next Level sometime in the near future. But yeah, I highly recommend it. I would say, personally, I would give it 7.5 or an 8 out of 10. Obviously, it's a very popcorn flick, but it's very, very entertaining. And I think anyone, if you have 2 hours to kill and just want to watch something fun, get your mind off of things, it's probably a good fit for that. But yeah, I'm going to go see some movies, and I'll do some more reviews later on. See you next time. Bye.